like to welcome everyone to the conversation where we talk about everything Cowboys. My favorite team, your favorite team, America's team. Here with your host, Coach Marv.
Cowboy Nation, how are you doing today, man? How are you doing? How are we doing, man? I know we had a lot of news that has come out in the last couple of days. I know some of y'all, some of my loyal listeners and followers. Um, I've gotten had a couple of conversations with a lot of guys that have asked me, say, well, Coach Marv, how you feel about some of the events that's been happening, and um, but we're gonna have a talk. Today we're gonna have a talk, and I don't know how far this is gonna reach. I would love for you to share this on your platforms, on your everywhere you can share this in your groups. If you're in the groups of Cowboy Nation, if you talk to any of your cohorts, they're Cowboy fans, I want you to share these things. I want you to share this with everyone because we're going to talk, and we're going to talk reality. We're going to talk um, football. We're going to talk about what's happening in Dallas right now. And we got a lot of people that I really that I rock with. A lot of people that are very loyal Cowboy fans, and I think we're all over the place, and some of them are even down. But we have to sit back, and I think if we sit back and we really analyze and we listen and we get out of our emotions about what we want, and we get out of our emotions about what has happened in the past, and we get out of our emotions about previous things, and we understand and listen and allow things to develop, we'll have a better understanding and we'll have a better way to attack certain things. A lot of the stuff that I've said, I remember last show I was like, where I put said it had the receipts about what the things if you was a Cowboy, the defense based out listen to Coach Parker. They remind you now, I'm not I'm a 4-3 guy, right? I'm not a 3-4 guy that I don't like. I have done 3-4, but I'm more of a 4-3 guy. But I don't think we're listening to our coach. I don't think we're seeing the tea leaves of what this team is doing. I think we're, as fan base, are trying to fight our coach's vision, and they're telling us certain things, but we're not listening. And we're trying to do it to try to lead them into doing it a certain way based off what we felt that was bad last year. In actual fact, we're doing what we said the Joneses do. But the Joneses are doing it based off the vision of Mr. Parker. And I want to start off saying, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it again. Christian Parker told you from the beginning that this is going to be a 3-4 defense. And from that point on, we've been trying to make it a 4-3 defensive end guy. Now, we can say that they was in the race for Max Crosby, and we can say that they probably would took Max Crosby. But I don't think unless it's a guy like that and he's going to change his philosophy on it. He wants a guy that probably could play a 3-4 rush outside linebacker. He told Brian Brothers that this is going to be a 3-4 and it's going to be basically a 4-2-5, where the nickel is going to be very important because they're going to play a lot of nickel and the safeties are going to be interchangeable. The Georgia guy, Dean, there was a 3-4 defense played in Georgia. Fangio basically is they have 5 guys down linemen, but it's more of a 4-3 set there, a 3-4 set there too. I think Christian Parker loves 3-4 sets. Seattle runs a 3-4 set. Some of your better defenses run a 3-4. The Baltimore Ravens for many years ran a 3-4 set with Ray Lewis. People think it was a 3-4. I mean 4-3. There's a lot of ways a 3-4 can make pressure and give guys one-on-one blocking where guys don't have to deal with double teams. Well, I say that, I'm talking about that. But what I really want to say to you is we have to allow this defense to be put together and the vision that this defensive coordinator has. We hadn't even seen them on the field yet. And we're just killing the whole thing. If you watch I know some people talk about the New England Patriots last year, and you talk about the Seattle Seahawks. A lot of the guys in New England picked up on in free agency. A lot of y'all didn't even call those. A lot of y'all went in here saying, "Oh man, how great their names were." I hear people talk about names, but New England made names. Now those guys are names. Same way in Seattle now. We're talking about some of their players in the point of names. We act like that there is not names being built every day in this great sport. And I believe that that's what Mr. Parker is trying to do. I look at the Philadelphia Eagle team, which is dismantling, but think about this. And I keep bringing it back because they were a top-ranked defense. But the linebacker we talk about, Braun, 2 years ago, nobody was talking about him. Nobody was talking about him. Nobody told us that the safety, the slot corner, and the slot and the other corner opposite from Slade, nobody was bragging about how great they were coming out of college and say, "Oh, they were going to be superstars." But now they got names. Cooper DeJean was not a name until his success at Philly. Now he got a big free agent contract. Names were built. They didn't get these guys ready made. But I think with us, we're scared to make names. And when I say about making names, what did Schottenheimer keep telling you about where he hired Christian Parker? He's able to teach. He's a great communicator. Every coach they're getting on that staff was able to teach. They're young. They're able to get to these players. They're able to teach and communicate. They're trying to make stars. I hear people saying, yes, great players make great stars, great coaches. I don't disagree with that. But two of the greatest coaches said, good players can't take bad coaching. And I've always said you can't make talent. Every player has a talented side to him. If you are in the NFL, you're a talented player. I've put this thing on my post, and I'm gonna show it to you again. I did a show about this, and I've put this up there many a times about talent. And I never said a coach can make talent. You have never said Coach Marv says, we're gonna go out there and take non-talented players and make them do something. But you can get guys to fulfill their true talent and get the most out of guys. Because if you got a coach that can't get the most out of the total unit, you're gonna have to keep getting more and more and more talent just to make up the difference, because you're gonna have to overrun it with talent. You're gonna have to continue to get more and more and more. But I always say coaches, yes, great players make great coaches. But I said coaches are only responsible for four things with talented players. And I said that all players that in the NFL has talent. There are four things: motivate. This is, this is one of the things that what he was talking about with Christian Parker, young guy, very motivated. A lot of guys that say they played with him say he's very good at motivating. Refine their talent, teaching. That's what he means about teaching. Guys that can go out there and teach and get the best out of, find what this makes this person better, find how we can make this guy better. Hold him accountable. Be responsible with them. Make sure that they're held accountable. And then put guys in the right spot, in the right places, in the right defense, in the structure I want, people that fit. That's all they're responsible for doing. And if you don't do these things, I don't care if you get 100 Mike Cosby's. You put them out there, and guys that don't keep him motivated, they don't refine his skills. They don't have hold the 11 Cosby's accountable, and they put him in all situations where they're not raising. Guess what they're gonna happen? They're not going to get the maximum out of all their talent. And I have seen this happen over and over again. Ultimately talented teams that are more talented than a lot of other teams, but they fail. I'm not giving all of it on coaching, but I do know that this guy has the opportunity to get what he thinks fits his defense, not what we think fits. Not we're trying to make the defense for him, but he's telling you this is what it's going to be. And instead of us going on what he says and getting on board of what he says and trying to look for players that he's telling you out of his mouth, we're trying to get other players. He's got everybody he's gotten. Every free agent they got so far has had experience playing in a what? A 3-4. So if you're looking for a guy that ain't got no experience in playing in a 3-4, take that off your list. But no, we're gonna say, go get a guy and then change your stuff to fit him. If you're putting the puzzle together, now I can understand If Christian Parker came in here and you had a bunch of 4-3 defensive end rush ends that were uh, dominant rush ends, and you had that already, you would be a fool to come in here and say, "Well, I got all that talent as a 4-3. I got a bunch of 4-3 talent, right? I got all this 4-3 talent, and I want to make them a 3-4 guy." Then you'll be a fool to do that. But the slate is basically clean. He got a guy named Izaraku who's built to be a 4-3 outside linebacker. I mean, a 3-4 outside linebacker, not a 4-3 linebacker. Houston, we don't even talk about Houston, but Houston pressure rate for the time he played was outstanding. He's history. He was just moved to defensive end when he got to college at Jackson State. He went to Florida as a top ranked linebacker. They talked about moving Sam Williams to linebacker because he runs down on kickoffs. Now, does he play with his hands like he's supposed to play with? Or is this an experiment to see if he can play outside linebacker? Probably. But they're looking at his athletic ability, and $3 million, they're going to give him a chance to see if he can be a better outside. But is he going to be disciplined enough to do it? He has the strength, he has the speed. Can we change that speed in him so he can make plays on the outside? We're going to see. But I'm not telling you this. This is what Christian Parker is showing you. But we're not even listening to him. And that's where I get to the point. What went on with Matt Eberflus? Matt Eberflus was a 4-3 guy. He had certain things that went on. Let's not even listen. You identify your problems with the players. Second thing is, if your defense is the same, then you identify the players. Then when you do your evaluation, your second thing you'll be saying, what made this defense not work in the same defense? If it's a different defense, you evaluate the players, and then what you're trying to do is you're installing your defense. There's no coaches that were left over off this defense. What? You're going to have a totally new staff of defense. You're going to have a totally new philosophy. You're going to have a totally new terminology. You're going to have a total different way of how they're coaching them. You're going to have a total mentality different. So you're living about doing stuff of trying to fit guys that was in the last defense, and you're thinking like that, then you're wrong. You have to let it play out to see what this guy is trying to build. I told you yesterday or the other day, he didn't hire a defensive end coach. He hired a guy that has been coaching outside linebacker. The first person he went to try to get is the guy out of Pittsburgh that been teaching TJ Watt and been working in Pittsburgh for 9 years, working with 3-4 defense. That's all he's been working with. We're gonna get to Osa in a minute because y'all know Osa was my guy, and that's what a lot of people ask me. With the 3-4 defense, let me complete my point. A defensive end coach, and then what after that defensive end coach, he hired a guy that has been working with pass rush guys. Now, yes, you can say he's been working with pass rush guys who are defensive ends, but a lot of his pass working guys is with guys that you're trying to teach how to pass rush from a linebacker rush end spot. That's going to help that. Maris, some of these other guys to refine their skills. So, yes, I was an Osa guy. I was an Osa guy. Y'all know that I defended Osa, say, hey, I do. Okoye media was running a show yesterday, and I said, man, I texted him and said, I couldn't get on the line with him, and I texted him and I said, and this is how people really should work in this media situation. I respect Okoye media well, and when you come out, we had a chance to have a discussion about it. We talked to each other last night and had a discussion about it. But my text was, I respectfully disagree of your assessment of Osa in that game. And I explained to him because I felt that this slanting stuff, but he did point out some things to me, and I had to say yes. And then I had to go back in my Rolodex about things that I knew about inside the locker room. And then I had to say, and then he brought up to me to something that I didn't even take into account for. He said, Coach, they probably want to be bigger in the three up front. That's the 3-4 way. And you know what I said? He's right. Why did Solomon Thompson and Osa do a lot of slanting to get, and that slanting got them in trouble in certain times? Sometimes Osa did. When you watch back at his tape, he used quickness. He was strong, but he used quickness to get around guys. And you see him make a lot of big plays with that quickness, but in certain cases, he got in trouble trying to be too quick. And then he had a little elbow problem. And then he tried to rely on his feet even more. And then I had to go back and think about it. Why has Osa not played more than 57% of the snaps in 2 or 3 years? Because they feel like that he doesn't, the grind and trying to be quick and get around, he gets to the point where he try to do that. I'm not saying Osa's a bad player. That's his way. Well, Christian Parker might want to. There's not going to be a lot of stunting up front with these guys in this 3-4. Because if you go back and research the team that he had, Denver, as well as in Philly, they're not a team to do a lot of playing games. It's going to be a very disciplined defense. They're not going to show, they may disguise stuff, but it's going to be very disciplined. And Osa and Solomon Thompson were smaller guys. So he might have wanted one to go bigger. That's where they go. So I'm not saying, just like you said, yeah, but that's what you were saying. And I had to come to that realization. I thought Osa could play, but then I had to come to that realization. That's what I'm saying. Coach Marv don't sit up here and say, well, I know, and it's over with, and what I think is that, and I can't see things another way. When I talk to people who are giving me not this star-studded, just because this guy's name is son, just because this guy is here, and then we watch it, and I'm not saying that bad. I don't want nobody to get upset. We watch the film and they got names. But if you watch film on a lot of people that don't have names, there's a lot of good football players in this league. And guys make names with opportunities. And so, yes, he might have wanted to be bigger. And they might have wanted, and then there might have been some things about was Osa dedicated to football all the way. I don't know. I'm not saying he's not a hard worker. This is not no disdegrade him. It's just some things that I've heard personally inside. I don't think they were bad on Osa, but I think Krista Parker might have said, I just want to be a little bit more bulky up here. And I cannot have a guy that's trying to take sides or get around. We need those 3 guys that's going to be there up front, got to carry some weight. This is why then I had to go back and say, why did I say Clowney didn't fit? When I said Clowney fit, Y'all see me in my post when I said I thought Clowney would be great. Then I had to wonder why they said that Clowney didn't fit. Because they said that Clowney had to play a 4-eye. And Clowney had lost weight. Remember when people were talking about he looked like a receiver? Well, that's for him to get around with those knees. Not saying he can't make plays, but he had to get weight off of it. Now, if Clowney was a little bit bigger and played a 5-eye, I know he could play it because he did it in his earlier career. I don't know if he wants to get that weight to play that. Y'all should have known that they wasn't looking for rush ends when they got rid of Clowney. Clowney came in a half a year after training camp and had what, 7, 8 sacks? And he wasn't even in shape for the first 4 or 5 games he played. That at least 10, 11 sacks. And how many pressures he was getting. So when they passed on Clowney, did it register with y'all that they not looking for those type of rush ends? But it didn't register because they were telling you, but you wouldn't listen. They got a guy that gave up that deduction. They say no. They were talking about changing Sam Williams to outside linebacker anyway because of his speed and he's younger. He runs on kickoffs. They moved Maris to outside rush in because of his athletic ability. And y'all didn't see the tea leaves, but y'all still trying to push defense in. I mean, they told you. Yeah, Xavier Collins. Xavier Collins, anybody say that? I think they're focused now on the guy from Minnesota. And if they got rid of Osa to get a second round, a third round pick where they can get because they needed that for to try to do the deal for the Minnesota guy. Because what I think is their players, their coaching staff has gotten together, these young guys, and they have seen talent. They're doing the exact same thing. See, people talk about all the free agent signings that that New England did last year. And you look at their talent that they draft, they got people that fit. They got people that did what some of those things everybody wasn't so excited about. Landry. Some of these guys they weren't the mega stars, but they were good football players. And they fit what New England wanted to do. And they fit not with just their style. They got the guys that they can mold into a team. We want to talk about everything else, but that's going to be the key. Do y'all listen? Go back and listen to all the interviews that you hear from the Seattle Seahawks and their defense. Think about what Seattle did. First, they went back to their identity as of an organization. Building stars defensively, running game, quarterback being option, do his thing. The Legion of Boom didn't come in this year, didn't come into the NFL, all them stars. Nobody can tell me everybody thought Sherman gonna be a star. Nobody told me that they thought that the other safety was gonna be a star. Nobody told me when he first got the two safeties and all these other Clint Abram and all these guys were gonna be stars. They came in young together, they molded and became one of the better defenses in the league. They didn't come off being stars off the bat. It's happening everywhere. But in our community, we feel that you got to get ready-made guys. That you can't guys can't come and become stars. And if we don't get ready-made guys, all we don't know what we do. But you can't tell me nobody who's doing it that way. Because if you want to sit down and debate that, let's go. I'm ready. Because when you tell me one and I give you 7 or 8 more, and you can give me one for every 7, 8, then okay. Lightning in the bottle. You gonna try to get lightning in the bottle? They're looking for guys that fit what he wants. They're looking for guys that have the right mentality, guys that want to be working in the dirt. Still gonna make this team. Y'all can talk all the crazy y'all want about Steele. When you got a lineman that blocks at a 70-80% run block rate, and then what he gave up 6 sacks, 7 sacks, and we threw the ball more than anybody in it, he may have gave it up 7 on about 900,000 attempts. You don't become a great offense like this and have the people you, and then we say, oh man, that's where we go. Because if you watch, let me tell you something, the Cowboys ain't crazy. They're not gonna let go players that they know people gonna snatch up. All the players that they didn't have to sign, that their own phrase that they didn't sign, had they signed anywhere else? I think Brock Holman signed somewhere. For the rest of them, they just cleared Malik Hooker just there for if we want, and you're right about him. He might not even make team because there's gonna be hungry guys that gonna come out there. And you signed 2 hungry guys, and we talking about maybe a veteran backup, but he's gonna have to play special teams. And if you're a backup safety, you can't play special teams. Uh, there ain't no job for you. There ain't no backup safeties just sitting on the sideline saying I can't play punt team, kickoff team, and do it well. No, they were 50 some guys. So you gonna play? You gonna have to do that. So I say this is because they're building the 3-4. Now, is it the perfect build? Is it if everything in place? No. I hear people say about draft picks. You got 2 first-round draft picks. I hear people say, yeah, we can say the bust, we can say the guys, but I think you did pretty well with a Zach Martin. I think you did pretty well with a Tyler Smith. I think you did pretty well with a Michael Parsons. I remember Michael Parsons being drafted, and everybody was talking about, yeah, you drafted a off the ball linebacker. You remember that? I remember when we drafted Tyler Smith, we had people had to defend Tyler Smith because I mean, he's building, and we gotta allow him to build his defense, and we gotta, instead of fighting against it about who we want, let's really concentrate and really listen and watch what they're doing, and then try to get on board with what they're doing. And let's get out the animosity about what the Jones is doing and they're allowing this guy to build his defense. What would be worse is this guy trying to build a defense and the Jones is going out getting guys that's the totally opposite because that's who they want, that ain't the guy defense, and then they tell him the coach of defense that you didn't come in that say, this is the style I want, and just coach my style. And then y'all would say that'd be okay. Because that's what y'all asking Christian Parker to do. See, let me say something about Michael. And I'm gonna say this about this, and I'm gonna say this. See, this great comment, but so let me just say, and I'm not coming at you, but I'm gonna use this right here. Michael, newsflash to everybody. When Michael got drafted, nobody even talked about him. They said, yeah, he could do that, but nobody even mentioned about him being a great edge rusher. They said he could do that. They didn't envision that until he got in training camp. They said, well, he could do that a little bit. He could do that, but let's go. And you know when he started getting more opportunities? And this is why I said that defense that year went from butt naked last and didn't even have the talent pool that this defense is trying to get. And they went to be almost outside the top 10. Everybody forget about that. And Micah, do we understand during that year the reason why Micah, that defense went from last? They took a first year Randy Gregory as the starter. First year starting. A first year starting, being on this roster, Donovan Wilson. They took a guy that hadn't started nowhere, that Boss Cowboy was the only person that co-signed for Deron Curse. That nobody said that if we talk about his name, nobody would give him no chance, starting at safety. They got Malik Hooker. At that time, Malik Hooker was probably the best he'd been in the Cowboys, but he was coming off a ACL or Achilles. They took a Anthony Brown that all y'all talk trash about for his whole career. They took a Diggs that was coming off a rookie year that wasn't that impeccable at all. People was having questions, was Diggs going to have a better second year? They took an Olsen that was a rookie. They had a Carlos Watson on that team that was a journeyman. They had a Lavelle Gallimore that hurt himself the first year and tore his back and was out 5 or 6 games. They had an LVE. I don't even talk about that. We had a guy that you got from you converting from safety to linebacker. You had a Jalen Smith, which you traded, you released 3-4 games in. And that defense went from, they changed out 7 players from the previous defense. There was really no starters left, but maybe 1 or 2 guys from the year before. They went from butt naked last to 12th in defense and top 10 in scoring defense. And Michael Parsons got his chance to play. Oh, I forgot DeMarcus Lawrence. Michael Parsons got his chance to play that year. He got a chance to play defensive end because DeMarcus Lawrence was out 4 games and Randy Gregory was out with a sprained ankle. And we didn't have no defensive ends. We had to play with DeMarcus Dorrance Armstrong, Michael Parsons. And we still stopped people. And that was out 4 games, and we went 5 games and we went 4-1. Y'all remember that year? And I keep telling y'all remember that year, but y'all act like that y'all didn't even see that. All those things I named went on the first year Dan Quinn got here. And was that defense put together with a bunch of all-stars? But what it was put together with, that pieces that he got, and they played as a unit. Guys made their names. Donald Wilson made a name. Ron Curse made a name. Diggs made a name. This was before Bland got there. Diggs made a name. Michael Parsons made a name. Randy Gregory made a name. But y'all act like that didn't happen. And that's disappointing to me. And nobody can argue me that point. Because that's facts. And you're about to do the exact same thing, but this time you got better players. You got a Clark, you got a Quentin Williams, you got a Agent Zero. The cover ain't bad. Then you done picked up some safeties. And then you about to add 2 first-round draft picks. Y'all, what y'all talking about? It already done happened. And instead of being excited about what we have done in the past, if you want to talk about the past, we we just we on some negative tip. And I know somebody gonna say, "Oh, here come Coach Marv the negative." But it's the truth. You can't tell me that we did that with that group, and this group can't be better than that group. And regardless of those guys are still here, they worked for that year, didn't they? And if you're a Cowboy fan, I'm quite sure if you're a Cowboy fan, you've been a Cowboy fan longer than this 1 year. And you remember Mike Nolan. You remember how bad that defense was. And we want to talk about bad. It was worse than this defense. This defense can stop the run. When you giving up over 200 yards rushing with people just running the ball down your throat and pass the ball, when they just beat you physically. One thing I can say about this team, yeah, we might have been throwing the ball, but they were just beating us physically. And we remember Mike Nolan. This ain't been that long ago. And we went from last to 12th to top 10 scoring defense without Dak Prescott for 5 games. Shut teams down. Lost out. When you want to talk about pass rushes, we lost our top 2 pass rushes for 4 games. Duh. Michael Parsons didn't get no 15, 20 sacks. And then that year, most of Michael Parsons' sacks came from rushing from the middle of the linebacker. And nobody gonna dispute me. Ain't nobody gonna debate me on that. Cause that's the truth. That happened that year. And we think, oh, well, it don't have to be that. No, that ain't crazy. No, we ain't gotta do it that way. Let's go spend all the money. Let's get out every game and get every free agent. Let's go ahead and bust the bank. And you already have a precedent in your organization not 2, 3 years ago. And you're even in a better situation than you was before. And you can't tell me the Cowboys don't remember that. You can't tell me the Cowboys organization do not remember Dan Quinn's first year. You can't tell me the Cowboys organization don't see that, damn, we got more talent then and 2 trade round draft picks where we came that year that you can't blame them for saying that we could do this again and get to at least 12 and top 10 defense with this offense. Doing it that way. But we're going to get some more free agents. They already got some more free agents. Now we make a trade. Then we draft 2 dogs. And we done hired a coaching staff that are teachers. And we can't do this. But y'all up here talking about if you don't get Max Cosby, it's all over. And that one guy gonna come and save you. It's not a point if somebody gonna give it to you dirt cheap. But you gonna pay him $30 million that. And I can tell you this, man. When you got injuries like that, man, eventually they're gonna rear their head. And what we don't need on this defense, what's the first thing? And I hope Tyrone Church is still in here. What I said, the first thing I don't want. I don't want no damn hurt ass players. Because if you're going to if you're asking Christian Parker to put in a new defense, he need all damn hands on deck. Bland ass better be ready by training camp. There is no time for us to sit with guys on the sidelines drinking Kool-Aid or over there with the stretching things, and we're trying to put a deep. That was one of the biggest problems of last year. All the people we were dependent on that turned out that we were dependent on was sitting over there with clipboards. And then we're gonna say, okay, Matt Eagles is in here with a new defense, go out there and play defense now. Like that, like this is fantasy football. It don't work like that. When you're trying to build a team, it's got to be work, continuity, playing it the right way. The same thing I'm hearing Seattle players all the way down the board talking. Now guys are names. I said what you could do with draft picks. I said this. I did a show. Y'all want to talk about? Y'all want to get a lot of people want to give us about what people. But when I give them facts, we look all over that. The facts is in the last 3 Super Bowl champions, in the secondary, there were pivotal rookies. When you look at the Super Bowl teams, they were pivotal rookies that were pivotal to that team's success. And all of them were first round draft picks. And guess what we say? Fuck the picks. Kansas City Chiefs. If you want to say a team that's been living off draft picks, it's been the Kansas City Chiefs. They'll go get a free agent guy here and there. They made a splash with the running back this time. Another thing that they're doing that kills all the myths that everybody try to push. And they kill myths. That's why they win. They let everybody talk about what you need and what the myths. Because everybody's pushed towards passing. This thing about edge rushers is pushed towards passing. Like, you definitely need an edge rusher. We're dominant edge. I'm watching teams every year. If you want to call it committee, it's committee. I mean, Kansas City done changed their edge rusher 2 times. They got now they got the guy that he getting about 10 sacks a year. The guy that got out of Purdue 2 years ago, Voss was really high on that guy. Nobody drafted him. He drafted Kansas City, got him, and he been doing it. And then you got Chris Jones that may give you what, about 11, 12 sacks, maybe if that many, but he gets a lot of pressure. The other guy on the other side is a rotational guy, whoever, but their defense is made to bring pressure from other places. They do a lot of blitzing. They do a lot of pressure. They do a lot of things with their defense that causes you to have to get pressure. they have a semblance of a 3-4 defense where they can bring people from everywhere. They have a tendency to build great cornerbacks and then they put them in the street. After 4 years, by the time it's time to pay them, they let them go. They have done that 2 times already. Then I got almost MVP, great Pro Bowl corners, and then they traded 2 years ago to the Titans, and now they traded this one to the Rams. That's what they do. They build defensive backs, they make stars, and then they let them go, and they have more stars that they're making. They're not doing all this stuff y'all talking about, and they're winning. But we don't want to follow that blueprint. We want to get this make-believe blueprint that somebody done made up and said, go get all these players, buy the championship, and tell me where that's happening at. I wait. What we going to say? People going to say, oh, it happened in the Rams. The Rams did buy OBJ. OBJ was cut from the Cleveland and took $1 million just to play with the Rams. He had better offense. He wanted to play for the Rams. They went out and paid less than nothing to get the pass rusher. If you look at him, he did a couple of things, but they got him off him. What else did they did? What else did they made some moves? They traded a quarterback for a quarterback. What other great things did they bust the bucket for? They drafted Cooper. I think they drafted Cooper Kupp. Or they got him. Nobody thought Cooper Kupp was going to be great. Nobody. But Cooper McCool went down. Everybody said he was a no-brainer. They done made more stars now. Guys that we didn't talk about. Now they done made them stars. San Francisco don't go out here. They went out there this year to get Michael Evans. But they gonna get one player here and there. But they don't go out here and say we just gonna load up a few. They build from what they team. But we got this thing that said, go get a whole host of guys. I can give you research that when the you know who used to do that? Got every big name free agent to spend a lot of money for about a 5 or 6 year span. You know who did that? The Washington Redskins owner. I'm gonna say Washington Redskins because that's who he was then. We got the guy from Tennessee, the Haynesworth, when he came out, gave big money. Dion was out there. He went and gave Dion big money. Went and got the guy from Carolina Panthers. Every big name free agent that came out, they went and got. They didn't draft at all. They didn't care about the draft. And they put their team in the worst possible drought for years. Daniel Snyder didn't care about how much money he spent going out getting free agents. And one Jack Doodle. And I understand you say with Kyle, we in a and put a team in such a bind that it can never get out of it. I remember one year the Giants went out and got a receiver. Remember that year? They went out and got 2 defensive ends, went and got receivers, spent more money in free agency than any other team, and then won 6 games. I'm just saying, man, if I'm going to follow anybody, I'm going to follow a team that has perennially been successful, but not just a flash in the pan, but they may not have won Super Bowls, but they have constantly had teams that was in the hunt. They're playing the championship games. They're playing AFC, NFC championship. They're playing the Super Bowls. They may not have won, but every year they're most likely regardless of what's going on, they are damn near talking about winning the Super Bowl. But I'm going to do it a different way. We talk about the Joneses wanting to do it our way. But fan base, we the exact same damn way. Because the hard way is how other people doing it. But we think we can spend money because we them boys and it's going to be given to us. And in the same fact, when you look at the Pro Bowl list and the All Pro list for the last 10 years, we ranking up at the top of that list. And we need to go get more free agents and more names. Let's talk about facts. Let's don't talk about what we tell it. Let's talk about those points. Because we can't say you are all draft. Listen, they tell you 60% of the draft is going to fail anyway. That's everywhere, man. That ain't just the Cowboys. I kept tell people, man, the same blueprint that KC used, I'm going to give y'all a nugget that they talked about this. I'm going to give you a nugget that if you think about it, it's crazy. And this is not being old school. It's the truth. Okay. The blueprint that Kansas City used of team building. Andy Reid said he had a conversation and he studied the New England Patriots about their team building and how they built teams to sustain success over a long period of time. And think about it. A core of players. Make sure you keep building around the core. You can't pay everybody. So that means you have to have replacements for certain players because you can't pay everybody. That means you got to work to have the next man ready. You got to let some people go, but you still maintain the core and you make the next star. They have done that with 3 or 4 defensive backs. That the Kansas City that went to the Super Bowl with their secondary has changed out 4 times in their Super Bowl run. This ain't no in the window. It's facts. Their defensive ends on the other side of what name have changed out, but their core has stayed. And your head and your ownership tells you we can't pay everybody. We're gonna pay the stars. But certain players, it's on you to get the replacement ready. They take that challenge. He studied how New England did it. They got a special when Tom Brady talks about all his championships, and he talked about that exact same thing about how Bill Belichick got players, and we changed out the whole other side of the team 3 or 4 times to have that success for 20 years. They couldn't hold everybody. They couldn't keep everybody. They had to find the right fit, get them to work together. It took, but it was what they had. Not saying they don't have talented players, but they kept getting fits. So where did Bill Belichick get that from? Some say he got it from Bill Parcells. If you watch Bill Belichick, there's a show when I forgot what it was, when he was talking with he was on the boat with Jimmy Johnson. He asked Jimmy Johnson, how did he build teams and keep them together for that run that he had. Drafting players, getting the right players, making sure. Jimmy didn't have it for long. But he wanted to know what it took to build a team, how you did that, how you got talent, how you got right fits, how you make stars. Because they made stars in Dallas. They didn't come ready made. Leon Lett was made. I ain't say they were made talent wise, they were made stars. They never checked with nobody until he got with the right system, the right coaching staff, he was made a star. Alan Harper was made a star. Nobody liked when Moose Johnson was drafted. Are you gonna be right with every pick? No. Have we bust in our development of guys? I would say so. But you gonna correct that by saying we're gonna go get guys, go get everybody, and throw together and say, okay, this talent gonna be, we're gonna throw the ball. How many times we done seen that fail? Because teams still win. The NBA should show you this. How many big threes and big fours we done had with Hall of Famer players and they lost? I'm a Laker fan. We had 5 Hall of Famers on the team one time and lost. We had Gary Payton, Karl Malone, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, and still lost. But we got this big three mentality. That if you get all the stars, spend all the money, that's gonna win. That's lazy analysis. And there's no boxing. It's no boxing it out. They don't need to box it out with. Listen here, I understand what Boston said. I understand, and this is what I would say. I remember Boston shows about the Martians. He was right. I remember what Boston was saying about when he put out his book, when he went going after the guys that everybody else was looking at, and how many people he hit on. Go back to Boss Cowboy book, draft books. They weren't all these guys that everybody was talking about. His draft book hit on more than all these other guys was hitting on. And they turned out to be stars. But that's what he needs to start thinking about right now. Because it still can be done. It's in the weeds. And that's what this guy, Christian Parker, is doing. Because I take that this guy got it from the mud. And if he got any blueprint, his blueprint is still enough. I told you that the second year that the Kansas City won championship, they had 2 rookie guys starting in the secondary and 3 other guys that were rookies. I posted on Facebook. I mean on Twitter. That were later draft, and they won a Super Bowl. Guess what Philadelphia did? They beat Philadelphia that year, right? So Philadelphia turns around. They don't go out and get no veteran guys to play their secondary. They looked across the field and said, damn, these guys beat us, man. How them rookies guys came out. So what they do is they go draft 2 rookies to put with their backfield. They start playing some guys that was on their roster that they came up that they say they need to play a little bit more They got them ready to play, and then they went back and became a better team. And then they won a Super Bowl with 2 rookies starting for them. And guess what? Then Seattle looks and says, we got one guy as a first-year starter, and then we got one guy as a rookie at safety, and had a great year, and then we go with a rookie at that, and we win a championship. But everybody like that's impossible to do. Well, 3 Super Bowl champions. And New England at the Super Bowl started at least 2 rookies. And they got one guy as an offensive tackle that nobody talked about, said he was great. And he wasn't the greatest, but they got through to get them to where they had to because he had talent, but they didn't say he was that great, but he was good enough for them to get to where they need to go. Great coaching job. Great players did, yes. It's about getting the most out your players. And have we done that as a coaching staff in Dallas? If you want to tell me something, I would say that on the top of the world, hell no. Because we'll let distractions, we'll let guys get to the point. We have done this. Let me show you again. And let me show you with my feeling that we messed up when I say you got a talented players. I've always said we got talent. Look how many Pro Bowlers and all pros we got in the last 10 years. We rank at one of the tops in Pro Bowlers and players. So we had talent on this team. I said the coaches can't make talent. Every player got talent. I've said it over and over again. Right. If you want to say great coaches are made with talented players, okay. But I also would counteract that says great players can't take bad coaching. I would say in this duration of this team with all this talent that I think we have had, we didn't do a good job of motivating the talent because we've seen sometimes our motivation and then our talent slip. Did we refine talent in some ways? Sometimes our guys went bad. Bird, check the rest of the NFL and tell me how that turned out. 80% of the see, we don't miss information because we look at the Cowboys and act like, oh man, they don't happen nowhere else. 80% of the league, most of the guys that don't even last 3 years. And in that period of time, 2019 to 2023, tell me how well we rank in Pro Bowlers and All Pros. I bet we top of that league. Then tell me where the teams that do all the free agent, tell me what those teams are perennial winners. And then when you're going to say, well, their organization ain't the same, their coaching staff is the same. Well, guess what? Instead of talking about getting players, why are you not preaching on that point? Because if you want to argue about it, tell me we can sit down. I'm not scared of it because I know when you look at the teams that's winning and perennially winning, they're not going out there blinded. Listen, they get pieces where they have, and they make sure that they ride the talent they have. That's just point blank. If you want to talk about it, Kansas City they had 4 different cornerbacks. They haven't had 2 cornerbacks. They have had 2 All-Pro cornerbacks that hadn't lasted on their team for 4 years, and they had traded them. Both of them traded them, and both of them got mega contracts, and they was all pros when they traded. They have changed their secondary out in this run 4 times. I bet you couldn't say You tell me Kansas City, tell me a guy other than Chris Jones and maybe one other guy that been on that defensive line for more than 7 years, more than 3 years. How many different wide receivers that I had there? You go back to Philadelphia team. They done let 3 or 4 of their guys go. Go back to 2 or 3 of their drafts and see how many they still got left. And they not really going to get if the team that's beating us ain't going out and buying a bunch of free agents. So what? So we do it a different way. I'm just trying to say. I'm just trying to figure out if I say it like this. I had a show called Pimpin' Backwards. And I maybe should have named that show Pimpin' Backwards. But my thing was Pimpin' Backwards was because if you try to build through the draft, you got to make sure you rise the talent to a level and you getting pieces. I have to understand what we're talking about. And I'm not saying that everybody's wrong. But if 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 I'm the Cowboys, and I'll go back to this and I'll say this again, and nobody can dispute this. If I look at Mike Nolan defense, that was horrible. And then you brought Dan Quinn in with a bunch of new coaches. Some was young, and those young guys turned out to be pretty good. Because Durden was a defensive became a defensive was a defensive assistant and became a defensive line coach under Quinn because he had worked with Quinn and Quinn gave him the defensive line coach. And some people kind of questioned Durden in a certain way, talking about you don't know that's a but look what Durden have done. Durden came to be a defensive line coach at Dallas, and now he's de facto defensive coordinator of the Seattle Seahawks that's won the Super Bowl. Uh, Al Harris was a first year coach at cornerback coach with under Dan Quinn. And he has Joe Witt and a couple of other guys. Now the linebacker coach, I don't think that had no ties. I think he wanted to have ties with that. That didn't have but that defense, and I say it again, that defense was horrible. Everybody talking about getting name guys. But you get guys that fit, there's guys that make names. Seattle got guys that made names this year. New England got guys that made names. Nobody was gotching over all the guys. Some of the guys that New England picked up were just fit. Some of the big names they picked up, they done moved on down. That's usually how the better teams do. They might pick up a big name for maybe a 1-year contract, basically sign him to get do a one thing, and then they move on. Then they find another guy. Or either they got a guy that they're molding or they find a guy for it. They don't lock into guys that they draft, they free agents they got. We want our guys to lock in. We want to lock into them. The better teams don't lock into free agents. They do exactly what everybody else talking about Marshall. They give the guys, get them a 1-year deal, maybe 2 years, they get what they went out, and they got to go. Ain't no bad business. We know we come here, do this job, be able to help. We not asking you to be the frontline player because we have our nucleus. We just asking you to be able to help this situation, and you got to go. San Francisco been doing that for a while. They may do that with Mike Evans. Boom, boom, gotta go. They did that with the defensive lineman they brought in. They bring in, bam, 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 gotta go. If you don't work out, gotta go. They don't lock into nobody for no duration contract. We want to lock in the guy. But nobody can dispute me that this ain't happening. But we try to talk about something that ain't happening nowhere, but we try to make it say, oh, that's what we really need to do. Nobody can dispute 22. I don't know if that's 22 or whatever. And I'm saying it again. And I want somebody to say, Coach, that ain't how it happened. That's not how it happened. This is not a referendum to say Dan Quinn is the answer all. Nope, it's not to say that. I believe Christian Parker is a hell of a coach, can be a hell of a coach. I think he has a chance to be a great coach. I like the mentality he's going about doing his thing. And yes, younger coaches have found their mark. They're doing some great things. But I will say this. Yeah, tell me some guys teams are built through free agency. Make sure you know. Make sure you don't really look at it and not what you done heard. And it's not that we don't try to get pieces. Because that they going on a blueprint that's big. They ain't get the maximum out of it yet. But I would say this. Let's go back again. Mike Nolan's defense was horrible. We come into next year. We had the worst defense in the league. We'll get a 400 yards rushing. The next year, I think we changed out 8 starters from that defense. No, D-Law, LBE, and we got rid of Jalen Smith. D-Law, LBE was the only starters. And Diggs. We had 3 starters from that team, from the Mike Nolan team that started from the previous year. They changed out 8 starters. We drafted, and we can talk about they're not being there, but for the time being, they play well. Now, if they still here, you can't play everybody. Again, we'll go back to what I said. Your job is that you can't pay everybody. Job of a team is draft, get the best out of 3-4 years, certain position. If they don't fall into the core guys, get what you gotta do, get on down the road, have their next replacement. Kansas City did that for 10 years, and that's kept them relevant for 10 years. That's the same New England blueprint. Anyway, 10 years. Then they got rid of 2 quarterbacks. Nobody want to talk about it. Then they got rid of 2 quarterbacks. They got rid of McDuffie. The Rams just signed him to a crazy deal. They got rid of the guy before that, 2 years before that, and they traded him to the Titans, and he got a crazy deal. If I'm lying, they didn't say we got to hold on to these great players. They got another guy. And probably the next guy they got is guy they what? Drafted. Is he probably somebody they say, oh, he's going to be great? Probably so, but not. But let's go back to what Quinn. This is not a referendum to say Quinn is the all up. I'm just telling you, if I'm the Cowboys, it's been that short. If I'm the owner, it's just been that short. You don't think I'm seeing this? We went from butt naked last. Now tell me if I'm wrong. Now let's talk about stuff. Let's tell me if I'm wrong. We went from butt naked last to 12th in the league in defense. And top 10 in scoring defense. Dak Prescott was out 5 games. We went 4-1. We held teams under 24 points. The vaunted Cincinnati Bengals, we held them to less than 20 points. The only game we lost, and we didn't really get blown out in that game, because our backup quarterback threw 3 interceptions against Philadelphia. That same year, am I wrong? Our top defensive ends, DeMarcus Lawrence missed 4 games because he got his foot. Randy Gregory missed 4 games. They had to put him on because he was on the for an ankle injury. Michael Parsons had to move to start doing more rush in stuff. But most of his sacks came from blitzing up the middle as a linebacker. We rushed with Dorrance Armstrong. Remember him? Somebody else we got in here to do the rushing too. But with no big names. But the defense still held up to be 12th. We had LVV at linebacker. We got rid of Jalen Smith that year. We cut it. We brought a linebacker from a safety from Tampa Bay, and we made him a linebacker. Remember that guy? That wasn't no great big free agent pickup, was it? No. We got Malik Hooker coming off an Achilles thing. Remember, we brought him in, and then we brought him back in, and we signed him right for the season. Andrew Brown, that all y'all talk trash about, was a 6th-round draft pick out of Purdue, but he was starting for us. A 6th-round draft pick out of Purdue. We talk trash about him, but I bet you we would love the way Anthony Brown played now with me. We had Curse, where Ball said that was his guy, and Boss was the guy that stood up on the table for him, and Boss was right. Curse didn't start nowhere. Was that a big name signing when we signed Curse? No, it wasn't. But it fit what Dan Quinn wanted to do. Donovan Wilson wasn't even starting till that was his first year starting. Was I right about that? How well Donovan Wilson played that? That was a chance. Donovan Wilson made a name for himself. Diggs was coming off his rookie year. Drafted player, 2nd round. Didn't play that well. The first year he had interceptions, but he had some bad times. He got burnt, but he broke his foot. But he came back at the end of the year and played and got better. But we brought Al Harris in, got the best out of him and Larry Brown. And Anthony Brown. Jordan Lewis came out to play slot corner. Nobody talked about he's supposed to be outside, but Jordan Lewis came and played. Am I right? And it went from last to 12. And y'all crying about what we doing now. We got a Quentin Williams, we got a Clark, we got an Agent Zero, we got 2 first-round draft picks. Mind you, the 12th pick in that draft for Quinn was the 12th pick, Michael Parsons. I'm not gonna fight on any windows. Let's present the facts. Read the facts. If we're talking about players, how many players have stayed? If you go back and research, I guarantee you that's the way it is in the whole entire NFL, people. The back end of your roster changes out. 25% of your roster changes out every damn year in the NFL. That's why I tell you, y'all need to watch football. Watch everybody to understand the problems everybody got before you focus just in on the Cowboys and start talking. Because if that ain't fact, that's the truth. Yeah, Michael Parsons was in that draft. And guess what? He was not predicted to be a pass rusher. He had to become a pass rusher because your 2 top pass rushers that year was hurt for 4 games. Do you remember that? We had to use Dorrance Armstrong. And know something else? When we drafted Michael Parsons, we had some people at a lot of Cowboy Nation said, where we drafting an off-ball linebacker for? That ain't the top pick. We don't need to draw off-ball line because we in this mentality that it got to be pass. It's got to be pass. And every year, a team showing you. Even the Kansas City Chiefs have debunked the system that everybody says it takes to win. They're debunked. They're going out here buying free agents. They have built their teams. They have debunked. Now they just slapped everybody in the face about this passing thing. Because what they did was they said, we're going to take the best quarterback in this league, and we're going to find out that we're putting the best quarterback in this league too much strain on him to be a star every week. And then we're going to go draft one of the better running backs. We're going to sign one of the better running backs. You're going to let everybody else out here with the quarterbacks that's less than him go out here and get receivers. It's the same thing. I'm a basketball guy. It's the same thing me and a great friend, great basketball mind. He said, man, the Golden State Warriors fooled everybody in the league for years. Everybody said that the Golden State Warriors, just true. Everybody said the Golden State Warriors was killing. Everybody had to match their 3-pointers. But that said that the Golden State Warriors scored more points in the paint than anybody else in the league. And they only allow a certain amount of people to shoot a vast amount of 3-pointers. Everybody else went and got everybody, the whole team shooting 3-pointers to try to keep up with them. And what they did was they had Curry shoot, Klay Thompson, and then when they had Durant shoot. Everybody else would shoot a 3-pointer here and there. But when the second unit came in, the backup point guard, the tall guy, never shot a 3-pointer, but he shot mid-range shots. They backdoored you to death and got layup after layup after layup. Then they came in with Curry them and they hit the haymakers. Everybody else went and said, oh, you got to go get 3-point shooter. Everybody else went and got a bunch of 3-point shooters, but they gladly go into the basket and they play defense. The right people shoot the 3-pointers, they win games. Fool you to think that you need a whole team to shoot 3-pointers. Well, Kansas City doing the exact same thing. Everybody think that you got to stay with Kansas City because you got to have a great quarterback that throws for 1,500 yards. The year Patrick Mahomes, his best years, that he had a quarterback stat-wise, he didn't win no Super Bowls. Not saying he's not a great quarterback. But they found out that they needed a defense so he don't have to put a cape on his back every game. And if I was to tell everybody that says, draft one guy in the defensive line, draft one defensive player, get your defense to the point, hey, and to draft Love at 12 if he's there, and build off a Love, Williams, Pickens, Lamb, and they may not get 1,500 yards a year, and you still dominate and win a Super Bowl. Know what our fans will tell us? They don't want to do it that way. And then we'll say that Jerry didn't want to do it that way. No, we are just like that. It's sad. I think we have been saying about this defense, and we ain't been listening. This young guy, this coach that says got his vision, that told you what he wanted, told you what he wanted to put in, told you what this defense was, told you on an interview when he 2 times talked about how he talked about And I did a show talking about when he talked about a safety, you can see the glowing to come out. I always said when you listen to a person talk, feel how they glow about certain things, and you'll know where they're coming from. He talked about that safety guy, that slot corner that you can do just about everything. You know who he was describing, and this way I said, man, this is why Dan Woodson should be in the Hall of Fame. He was describing Dan Woodson. Yeah, he was describing Dan Woodson, and how I said Dan Woodson, do all guy, and how those type of guys can flourish. And then I said how those guys can flourish in a 3-4. Look at a lot of your great defenses and look at your safeties that are great safeties in this league or Hall of Fame safeties. A lot of those people came out of what? 3-4 defenses. Dan Woodson played even better when he was playing. He played well when he was with the Cowboys early, but guess what? We had James Washington, Thomas Everett. But when Dan Woodson really got his heyday was around when we got into the Bill Parcells years, when he had his better football. And what defense did they play? Let's say for people in the back, a 3-4. Safeties are going to be Hall of Famers at 3-4. Ed Reed, 3-4. George Palomalo, 3-4. Get to be a playmaker. Get to dominate the game if you want to be a playmaker. What's the first thing that the man goes fix? What he feels about rushing the passer. He looking at this team. He said, well, what? We got screen and short pass more than any other team in the league. We had 4 or 5 guys that the Green Bay game, they put up 40 points. Right? I was at that game. The Green Bay quarterback completed 31 passes. And we talk about pass rush. Only 2 passes traveled over 10 yards in the over 11 yards in the air. Completion. And one of them was in the first quarter on a broken play. He threw sideline to sideline, slant, screen pass. Because guess what? He respected our pass rush. He just said, you ain't going to tackle in the back end. Philadelphia game. First Philadelphia game, Jalen Hurts threw 1 pass down the field over 10 yards. If I'm lying, tell me if I'm lying, y'all. Tell me what pass rush going to do for that. Same pass rush that upset, that got Michael Parsons. I remember last couple years ago, even the year the last, when we played on the playoff game, when Michael Parsons talking about that they're getting the ball out too fast. Yeah, it frustrates pass rushers. I'm not saying pass rush wasn't a problem. At the last half of the year, our pass rush was getting better. But this man has said, I'm going to do a 3-4. He's got everybody that has played in a 3-4. He wants pass rushing outside linebackers because they're not going to just rush. They're going to drop in coverage. They got to be flipped. They're going to cut down. They're going to have speed. And he wants bigger guys to do that. Now, I was an Osa guy, but I had to come off of my thing. I had to talk to Koye, and Koye mentioned the thing. And it was about how Osa played. And I had to go on some of the things that I've heard from inside that I'm not saying Osa's a bad guy. But I had to come off of Osa, but I think Osa's going to do well in San Francisco if they play. But Osa is a guy that uses his speed. And in the 3-4, there's no gambling. You ain't gonna see no slants. All that slant you seen, they gonna play it straight. They gonna play games with the people in the back. The linebackers, it's always gonna be 5-on-5. So when he says you got to win up front, he's telling you, I'm gonna eliminate the double teams with 5-on-5. And if you're a football player, only thing you ask is 1-on-1. I'm not saying that they won't go get Cosby. I ain't gonna say that they would. They might try, but is he gonna fit all the things that Parker wants to do with this defense? And is he really going to put the man through distress with his legs? I just want him to get healthy guys that's going to be here and they're going to practice. And I want to see the man put his thing together. But I think we're trying to put what we want as a defense based off what we thought was last year. But we don't understand. I'm going over it again because some of the people just came in. Every defensive coach has changed. The defense has changed. Hell, the terminology is going to change. The exact same reason it changed when Mike Nolan left and Dan Quinn came in, he changed the whole thing. And he got a philosophy in that said we play as a team. Remember all that year they talked about everybody doing their job, we playing as a team, sacrificing, they played well. Then all of a sudden, everybody started getting a big head, and then everybody starts saying, oh, the curse is this and Donovan Wilson this, and we start, like we always do, we start pumping them up and start saying that they can't do no wrong. But nobody can dispute that, man. So when we're trying to do it this way, I just say, man, I see more talent than that. And look here, we're talking about the middle linebacker. And I understand we're trying to get a linebacker. They went hard at Dean. Now I heard people say we should have threw even more money. No, hell no. Yeah, this is over. You're overpaid for these. Y'all sound, man. Just because you paid for a guy, does that mean I have never seen a salary win a Super Bowl. I ain't never seen that. This is the one game. I don't know about the other games, but this one, the greatest team sport in football. I have never seen one guy, one salary just weird. That ain't gonna never happen in this game. Now, you may get the media to push it that way, to try to make you think that way. And we got people that fall for that. But the guys that win it, they know that ain't happen. Even when you look at the great Tom Brady, when he goes over all his championships in that special that he talked about you should hear him talk. He talks about how Bill Belichick, how they made this team, how this stuff went, how they went through, all that. But nobody will hear that because you know something? That's too much like right. That comes from the horse's mouth. No one will hear that. They want to say, oh, man, Bill Belichick, Brady won all the Super Bowls. And that got us thinking that one guy, we can save it. Then I had somebody come and say, well, you did that with Charles Haley. Did you know the team Charles Haley came to play with? Did you ever hear Charles Haley say, man, when they came here, man, the team was already stacked. You know, Charles Haley didn't have his best years here. His best years was in San Francisco. His mentality, was the thing that brought. You can say that. We say, well, that's what we trying to do with Carter. But this team got a lot more. This team ain't as that team. That team was led to be stars. They had guys budding to be stars. I hate to say this, but people, we are closer than what you think we are. But we're our thirstiness. You know that word thirsty? People say that thirsty. You know how women you tell you you acting thirsty, that turns people off, or that makes you lose out on certain things because you're too thirsty, you too anxious, and you do this and that. That's how we sound. We're not even allowing the guy to build his own team and to see what the product is and to see where they're going to say, okay, I see that. We're not even listening to him when he talks. We got our own plans. And then we going out and talking trash with our own plans. Come on, man. And I'm not listen. I know, and I know some of y'all messy people. Y'all want to go. Y'all gonna run back and say, "Oh, coach talking about." Listen, I ain't never gonna talk. Me and Boss Cowboy ain't gonna never have no issue back because we have our own opinion. Well, I will say this: Boss Cowboy book, his draft book, he might do it this year. Has some gems in there, and most of his book is not the guys that it, Keystone. I haven't talked to Keystone in a while. Most of his in his sleeper file, the guys that most people, it's just like the draft. And this is why I would say it like this. It's just like with free agency. Everybody know the high names. It's easy to talk about that guy. Everybody can say, yeah, if you talking about you want to get the name guys, the big name guys, everybody loves to do that. But who can see the guy that say, hey man, this guy right here has a lot of this ain't had, he just ain't, he can play. He just ain't had opportunity there. This guy's a budding star. That's what Boss Book did with the draft. And I guarantee he could tell you he hit a lot of gems. A lot of them. This is the same thing that's going on right now, man. Everybody's the easy way to do it that way, to pick the names. And I'm not saying names are not good, but you know something? The names had to be made. They didn't come ready made. These names had to come from somewhere. They weren't ready made. And some names you can say they made a name and then they don't turn out to be all that. I can see somebody talking about Blaine, but I think a good secondary coach is going to help Blaine because it's going to help Blaine put Blaine in a situation, like I said, with talent. Let me go, let's say this again, and I'm going to get out of the way because I enjoyed y'all coming in. I enjoyed some of my cohorts from coming in, Stargazy, some of the other guys, Shannon Shaw, some of these other people that I have a lot of respect for that do great work. And difference of opinion, I think when y'all getting out there, some of y'all be out here trying to, sneak this and get personal and all that stuff. What we doing, man? I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna stand on what I say. And I believe in due time, nothing takes sometimes stuff that takes a while. But in due time, things come out. And now I won't pat myself on the back because I said this all last year because I knew what I saw. First, I say he needs two guys to run this back end. He needs somebody that's aggressive that he believes in on his back end, and that safeties have to start first. And if you got great safeties in this 3-4, if they can come out to be great safeties, whoo, it's gonna pop. It's going to give you time to get to the quarterback because they're going to be disruptive. It's going to make your linebackers better. It's going to make, listen, they don't get a lot of credit. So listen, and listen, you should have known this. And I say it like this. If you don't think that Christian Parker had something to do with this team and what this and how this is going, you just spent more money for a safety than you have spent in probably the history of this. You had the last big time safety you have paid probably was back in Bill Parcells' days. And if this guy goes and pays that off the bat for a safety, you're telling your team that was the main thing that I needed for this team. And then you pay a 1-year contract, not $3 million, $5 million. More than Malik Hooker making. You paid the Thomas 3 years, $30-some million. Then you pay the other safety 1 year at $5 million, 1 year deal. But you pay them more at $5 million than you pay Malik Hooker. Malik Hooker really ain't got about $2 $3 million. You cut him for a year, they're gonna cost you about $1.2 million. And you may draft one too. I just say, man, listen to Mr. Parker, man. Listen to Mr. Parker. Get out your feelings. I had to get out of my feelings with Olsen. And I had to say, hey, there's more than one way to build this thing. But I know it's certain things you ain't gonna get around. And y'all can talk about this. Y'all can say coaching this, and you can say this. One thing you're not gonna get around in football. You can talk about all the other stuff you want, but you ain't gonna get around physicality, and you ain't gonna get around team play. You ain't gonna get around sacrifice, and you ain't gonna get around playing the right way. Y'all can talk all y'all want. You can get all you want. You can go get this player, get that player. But if those things are not in place, your ass gonna come up short. There's no such thing as playing this game finesse-wise. There's no such thing for definite for defense that anybody says is a finesse defense. There is no such thing as we gonna get away when we got a bunch of individuals. Will never be anything that you win when you ain't, it's a sacrifice. So you're gonna have some guys that's gonna sacrifice some time for other guys. You're gonna have some guys that you want. So they're trying to get guys that's gonna fit, that's gonna believe in what Christian Parker wants. And I said it again, and I will say this 100 times. There is no defend if everybody's not bought in. There is no defend if everybody's not bought in. And he saw that you had a bunch of some guys that was not bought in to who? Matt Eagleflus. And I told you this. We were talking about Matt Eagleflus, but they were never bought into Matt Eagleflus. And when a new coach comes in and he sees that when you weren't bought into the coach, and you didn't give the effort because you went bought in, he don't want you either. That's coaching one-on-one. And I'm telling you that from experience. Because if you don't buy in for him to be good, you ain't gonna buy in for me. Because when I bruise your ego, you're gonna quit on me too. So a lot of these young guys that's on this team, they're gonna bring in draft picks. They're gonna go get fillers. And what what they are telling some of these guys, be on alert because we may change over, as we always do, 25 to 30% of this back end of this roster. Because we want guys that's going to be bought in to what we're trying to do. And everything they're doing is changing. So y'all need to chill out, watch what the guy's doing, try to find, say, hey, I see what he's doing. Let me find players that trying to fit that. Still trying to tell them what else to do. And it's now, if we ain't getting rid of those players, it's time now to find on the draft board and find the players that he think he want to fit. We already see the blueprint. He gonna get a good one at 12. He gonna get a good one at 20. If he can wait for 20, and Mr. Jeremiah Love is there at 12. You talking about another Barkley, but younger and tougher. And Javonte Williams ain't gonna have no upset about that. He making his money. And you ain't gonna be turning into no totally running team. But you will be able to win some games running the ball. But I'm gonna say this: when everybody was talking about the Pickens thing, Philadelphia went with AJ Brown and Smith. They went to the Super Bowl that year, and I think AJ Brown had one of the historic year, about 1,700 yards. Smith had like 1,300 yards, right? But they lost the Super Bowl game. The next year they went to the Super Bowl. AJ Brown had barely over 1,000 yards. Smith had 886 yards, and they won the Super Bowl. Tell me which year you think they thought it was the best year. That hardware on the finger. If we can be 12-5 and Pickens got less yards and CeeDee Lamb got less yards, and we can have a top 2 seed in the league, we're a better football team. If they got to do more and get 1,800 yards for us to even just be at the top, and they got to do that, we're a worse football team. Two hours, man. Hour and 54 minutes. I love y'all, man. Thank y'all for coming in. Big Time Show came in. All your comments is lab, man. Appreciate you, man, coming in. A lot of other people, if I didn't mention you, man, thank y'all for coming in. Thank y'all. Listen, I'm not trying to fight nobody. I just leave you with the points again. Man, let's watch what our coach is trying to do, man. Let's watch what our coach is trying to do. And let's support him and get with him. The Cowboys are not trying to do this without his direction. They're just trying to find the best direction for him. And listen, and a coach understands this. He can have a direction, but they're trying to do the best direction with the plan that they have with the money they have. And they got to be smart about this. And they're asking him to be smart because this is what you ask coaches to do. You ask coaches to say, hey, can you find those guys? What traits you looking for in those guys? Can you get the best out of this guy? They just trying to do all that. That's working with somebody. You don't want to work with somebody and say, all right, man, I need this, and I just need the best guy in that position. They say, well, what can you do for us? Nah, just give me the best. And then after it don't work, know what he gonna say? Give me some more. And then I always say, give me some more. Then after a while, you have to keep chasing the rabbit to keep this player up to date. I'll leave you this again, and I'll say this, and I'll get out of the way. I'm a Laker fan, and y'all might not agree with me on this, but I'm gonna say this: I'm a Laker fan. I'm not big of a Laker fan now because LeBron James is so popular there, and that got me. But let's go back. I can go back all the way to the Showtime Lakers, but let's go back when Phil Jackson. Let's go back to Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. This is what I say when you have to continue to give a coach everything and he can't get the most out of players. They had Dale Harris as a coach. Dale Harris won some games. But Dale Harris we had Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. And yes, Kobe Bryant was younger, right? With the first couple of years. But they got swept out the playoffs 2 years in a row with Dale Harris. Swept. They fired Dale Harris and brought in Phil Jackson. Now, what you say, well, coach, they still, Kobe and them got better. But let me tell you the team that Dale Harris had, and let me tell you the team that Phil Jackson had. And when we talk about talent, I ain't talking about players. When y'all want to talk about talent, let's just talk about talent. Dale Harris had Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, Eddie Jones, Nick Van Exel, Ellen Campbell. I think Cedric the Bottles was on that team. And they got swept out of the playoffs 2 years in a row. All those guys were very talented. Bring in Phil Jackson. First, Phil Jackson gets Shaquille O'Neal to go to another level. And he brings the level of Kobe Bryant up. They got Robert Horry, everybody say Big Shot Rob. Rick Fox, nobody thought Rick Fox was Jack when he was just a rookie guy named Derek Fisher. They bring a Horace Grant from another team, Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. And they get an old Ron Harper. Not the Ron Harper was playing with the Bulls, but not the Ron Harper was that came into the league. Some would say there was a talent, but raw talent, Nick Van Exel, Eddie Jones, Cedric DeBarlos, Ellen Campbell. All those guys probably can put in 30 points in the game. But they take a lot less talent, individual talent, and they win 3 championships in a row. And those guys were bigger names than the guys I said. Because Ron Harper wasn't no big name no more. He was known as a role player. Horace Grant was coming off when he was known as a role player. They did with Horace Grant. They did it one time with Green. Tell me, am I wrong? So when I tell y'all keep talking about these names and talent, yes, I don't disagree with you. Talent make great coaches, but great players can't take bad coaching. And the job of a coach with talent is to motivate, hold accountable, refine the skills, and put in the right spot. Just like people have found in the weeds and found a good talent in these drafts, that's what good coaching do is they get the guys that can be talented, they get them to that level. And the guys that's already good, I want to see them get Quentin Williams to another level. I want to see them bring uh Overshawn to another level. I want to see Maris get better. I want to see Rebel get better. I ain't say they got to be stars, but I want to see them get better. I want to see all these players get better and then see how we fan out. But thank y'all anyway, man. I hope you do hit that like button. I've had a lot of people in this chat. Three things I ask you to do. One, to help support this channel, to keep the channel going, and so I can I'm trying to get more and more stuff. Hit me a cash app, man. If you like the content, man, you want to support the channel, put a cash app in the cash app, man. 5, 2, 1, 10, 20, 100. That'd be because this is going to help build the channel. Second thing is, which is very important, right? Go to that like button. Hit that like button. 2, share this with me. This is what I talk about. Coach Marv, Real Talk. That's why I named my thing Real Talk. This is real thing. This ain't no, man, I hate this thing about this. We get into this thing about these innuendos about what we got to do this free. I'm not saying free agency is not there. But I still say again, if it's a blueprint of the better teams that always standing doing a certain way, why would you want to do it some other way? I can see you can tweak it a little bit, but go the whole opposite way. But please support the channel. Please do that. Please hit the like button. Please share. And if you hadn't subscribed to the channel, Coach Marv is a little bit under 1,000 viewers. Subscribers. I'm trying to get to that 1,000 point. I may not get 1,000 point because of being real. I may not get 1,000 point because I ain't getting this visual aid and all that stuff. I ain't saying I'm a computer. I'm getting better. I'm about to try to start getting somebody so I can start putting some tape out there, right? But like I said, man, it's really not bothering me about getting subscribers. I just want to get to the 1,000. I want to continue to keep growing. It's not really because I'm gonna come. It's therapy for me. This how I'm going to say it. It may not be the likable thing, and I'm not going to get into a bunch of back and forth with people and a bunch of arguing about it because it really the Cowboys are the Cowboys. But history repeats itself, and you can talk about old school, but our DNA is defense. We have won all our championships with defense, and DNA is our DNA. Our defense is our DNA. All these stars we got on offense, but we don't won with defense. And look at our DNA, and you get back to your DNA as an organization and use the win. Seattle got back to theirs. They tried to go with Russell Cook and try to go a different way. But when they got back to being a top defense, a running game, and an opportunistic quarterback, they got back to the bowl and they won it again. Get back to your DNA. And that's how you win. As I always end my shows, 2 things. I want y'all to push. Look on my show. I'm going to repost this on my Twitter. I'm coming out with t-shirts that says, defense is a weapon in Dallas. I want Christian Parker to hear that. I want Christian Parker to hear that. I want everybody on the defensive end. I want y'all to say, Coach Marvin said defense is a weapon in Dallas. That's the weapon we're going to use in Dallas. I think they believe that. I think they need to hear that. I think they need to practice and play like that. Then what the offense can do. Defense is a weapon. And the next thing I want to say is I always at the end of my show. No one and nothing can stop God's will. This ain't got nothing to do with football. This has got to do with life, football, everything else. No one or nothing can stop God's will. Believe that. Hope, faith, plus perseverance going to equal breakthrough. So let's have faith in this. Let's have hope that this team gonna win. Let's have faith in these coaches that they're trying to put something together, and we're gonna persevere through some things, and then we're gonna break through. I think God makes everything relative. I ain't saying God is on our side; He's on everybody's side. Just keep on pushing. So keep supporting all these other all the heavy hitters that came in here. They have shows. Support them. Support them and give them the attention. Give them where they and let's stop this social media bashing and trash talking. And let's get out of these type things, man. Let's try to get six. Everybody has opinion. I have opinion, and I'm respectfully can debate people. I think me and Koya had a wonderful conversation. Hopefully, we can get together, do a show. Hopefully, I can get to some of these other people out here ask me to get together. We can do a show together. Hey, I'm not coming to be the argument. Hey, I'm going to voice a reason, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to try to get this team together. I'm gonna see your point, you see my point of view, but that's how we're going to keep pushing. As I said, no one and nothing can stop God's will. Until the next time, salute, peace.